participate, make a comment? None? Seeing none, I'll go to item 4, administration. And we'll go to item A, approve the minutes of the May 13th, 2025 meeting. Do I see a motion? Okay, Lisa in the motion. Anyone have any comments, observations, changes they'd like to see? Mary?
I forget which minutes it was that I made a comment that really didn't need to be in the minutes. Let me just double check if which minutes it was. It was the comment about belonging. That could just be striked in the minutes.
Okay. With that change, I'll ask for approval. Any other comments? No further comments? Then I'll ask for approval of the minutes of May 13th, 2025 meeting. All in favor? Looks like it's unanimous. And I'll go to B, the financials. Approve Norwalk Housing Corporation Statement of Revenues and Expenditures and balance sheets for all funds for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2025. I'll turn this part over to you, Eugenia.
Okay, thanks, John. The Norwalk Operating Fund had revenues of $8,835 and expenditures of $8,768, which resulted in a surplus of $67. The balance sheet for this fund shows that there's assets of $763,000 and liabilities and net assets of $763,000. The Norwalk Revolving Loan Fund has revenue of $1,900 and expenses of $174, which resulted in an operating surplus of $1,700. And then the balance sheet has assets of $124,000 and liabilities and net assets of $124,000. That's all for Norwalk.
Okay. Any comments, questions, observations? None? I'll call for a vote to approve the financial statements for Norwalk. All in favor? Unanimous. I'll move to item 5. There's no business. Item 6, no new business. Item 7, any old business? Seeing none, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn. So move, Lisa, all in favor? Unanimous. So we're closing the Norwalk meeting and opening this special meeting of the Norwalk Redevelopment Agency. I'll call it to order. Roll call of Lisa Cooper, myself, Mary Peniston, and David Westmoreland. Anyone in the public that wants to comment? Questions? No? Seeing none? I'll move on to item 4, administration. I'll ask for a motion to approve the minutes of the July 8th, 2025 regular meeting. I have a motion.
No, no, wrong. It was in these minutes that comment was made, not in the other ones. I apologize.
Okay. So making the changes Barry requested earlier. Does anyone have any other questions, comments? Seeing none, I take a vote to approve those minutes. All in favor?
John, I'm going to abstain because I wasn't at that meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
And I'll be abstaining as well.
Okay. We have 2 yeas and 2 abstentions. Moving to item administration B, financials. Approve the Norwalk Redevelopment Agency Statement of Revenues and Expenditures and balance sheet for all funds for year ending June 30th, 2025. Eugenia?
Yes. Okay. For the fiscal year ending June 30th, the operating fund had actual revenues of $1.6 million and a budget of $1,583,000, which resulted in a favorable variance of $107,000. Actual expenditures were $1,785,000 versus a budget of $1,936,000 for a favorable variance of $151,000. This is mostly due to lower personnel expenditures of $142,000. The actual net operating deficit of $95,000 versus a budget of $353,000 resulted in a favorable variance of $258,000. Then going on to the balance sheet for this fund, Operating Fund 100 had $3.5 million in cash receivables due to other funds, property, plant, and equipment, and the right of use asset. It has $650,000 in notes receivable, liabilities of $1,773,000, and net assets of $2,388,000. The financials for the other funds were also included in this packet, and the explanations of the financial are included on page 8 of this packet also.
Okay. Any questions, observations, comments? Seeing none, I'll ask for a vote to approve the Norwalk Redevelopment Agency financials for the period ending June 30th. All in favor? Unanimous. We'll go on to item B, which is to approve the same financials for the year ending July 31st. Eugenia?
Yes, the actual operating deficit for July for Fund 100 was $17,000 versus a budgeted operating deficit of $33,000, which resulted in a favorable variance of $16,000. This is due to favorable variances in revenue of $3,000, personnel expenses of $7,000, and administrative expenses of $6,000.
Okay. Any questions, observations, comments? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote to approve the July 31st, 2025 financials. All in favor? Aye. Unanimous? That takes care of item 4, administration. Now we'll go on to item 5, and that's what everyone's been waiting here for patiently. We'll do the design review of 79 South Main Street. Brian?
All right, thank you. So yeah, as per usual, we have a design review today. We'll introduce the applicant. They can give a brief overview of their project, and then we can have our design reviewer kind of talk about some of the comments and feedback they received. I had forwarded out a supplemental email. I'm not sure if any of you had a chance to look at that, but I'm sure we'll discuss a number of the items tonight, which was the design review sort of responses from the applicant. And I know they've made good headway in some addressing some of the comments, but we'll get to those shortly. So I'm not sure who specifically is here to represent the applicant team, but if maybe you could just give us a very brief overview of the project, sort of what you're proposing, and then we could go to our design reviewer from there. Will it be you, Adam, or is it going to be Eric, or?
I will just sort of give a high-level overview of the project from sort of a programmatic level, and then I'll pass it off to the designers. So hello, everyone. I'm Lisa Endo. I'm Vice President of Sound Communities, which is the development arm of the Norwalk Housing Authority. With me today is Adam Babilski, the Executive Director of the Housing Authority, Leela Marlin, a project manager with Sound Communities, and our design team. We've got Adam Palmer and Matt from Amenta Emma. We've got Eric Rains, our landscape architect, and that's the team, I believe. Yes, great. So very quickly, this project is located in the heart of South Norwalk at 79 South Main. It's a through lot that goes from South Main Street to Chestnut. As you all know and are involved in, there's a lot of activity happening in this area, a lot of great improvements. Our goal is to create affordable senior housing on this site. We're looking at building 68 units for seniors at low incomes. of 30% of area median income or 50% of area median income. And so this is a mix of mostly 1-bedrooms and some 2-bedrooms. There will also be community space on the ground floor for on-site management and for activities for our seniors. The real sort of goal and impetus for this project is to move public housing residents who currently reside at the South Norwalk train station in a housing authority development called Leroy Downs, which you may be familiar with, to move those folks directly into this development at 79 South Main once it is ready, hopefully in the summer of 2028. Once we safely move those folks over, we will be tearing down Leroy Downs and building a brand new large-scale mixed income and mixed-use development there. So we consider this sort of phase 1 of the Sono train station project. And happy to answer any questions, but that's sort of the main gist of it. And we're very excited to be introducing the project to you. I'll pass it to Adam Palmer, unless folks have questions.
I just wanted to add one quick thing, I'm sorry, which is that in addition to replacing the senior housing at Leroy Downs, it adds an additional 19 units of very low income housing for seniors.
Okay, that's what
Thank you, Adam. Lisa, were you going to ask something?
Yeah, that was the question I was going to
Okay.
ask. Yes, was it open to other, other seniors in the community? So yeah.
We did, max zoning for this area is 72 units, and that's taking into consideration the new density bonus that low-income projects are eligible for. So we're able to get 68 units and still keep the 0.5 parking spaces per unit, which we know is adequate for our seniors. So we feel, good about adding those 19 units plus having a more modern, higher quality, better energy efficient housing for Leroy Downs tenants. I'll pass it to the design team.
So just one question. So I'm just looking at Google Maps. I didn't realize that this goes all the way through to Chestnut Street, you said?
Yes, it's
So
half an acre. It's kind of skinny, but it goes all the way through.
So you're tearing down, looks like kind of 4 or 5-ish buildings, or it's like one
Yes.
is a hodgepodge and then
Yeah.
a garage and another building.
It's all kind of a hodgepodge. There are 3 sort of residential buildings, and then there's sort of a smaller strip along South Main of 4 retail storefronts. 2 of them are vacant. One of them is used by us, by our property manager, and one of them is a locksmith, will be relocated. The residential structures, the 3 buildings, are a hodgepodge. They're not in great shape, unfortunately. We inherited them from Mutual Housing of Norwalk, and we are relocating and providing rental subsidy and full assistance to 16 households who currently live there. So we won't obviously tear down what is there until relocation is complete next summer.
Okay. And tell me again, what's in, looks like number 8 Chestnut Street, that rectangular shaped building, what's in there?
Yep, 6 and 8 Chestnut both have units in them. There
That's
are
housing as well.
I'm not sure how many are in each building, Leela. I don't know if you remember that. But they're sort of squat buildings, not in great shape, and clearly underutilizing this parcel where we have 16 units now and we can get 68.
And how many units do you have in Leroy Downs?
49.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Sure.
All right, I will take it from here unless there's any other questions for Lisa and her team. All right, so thank you, everyone. I'm Adam Palmer, Senior Associate with Amenta Emma Architects. We've been working with Norwalk Housing and Sound Communities for a number of years now. We're working on the Meadow Gardens redevelopment, which is almost done with blasting and ready to come out of the ground. And now we're on to the next one, which is, as Lisa mentioned, this new development to relocate Leroy Downs residents. I will share my screen now. So I'll start here, and then I'm going to kick it over to Eric to kind kind of bring us through from the ground all the way up out of the ground to the top of the building, and then look at the building as a whole. So here we're showing from our zoning site plan that was in the architectural set, the building, which starts on the left, which is the west facing Chestnut Street. On that ground floor, building heading to the east, we have occupied space with a lobby, offices, community room, and utilities. Then 20 covered parking spaces underneath the building itself. Moving further to the east, there are 14 open parking spaces in an open air parking area. And then on the east side facing South Main Street is a pocket park. And then on the south side of that, connecting all of this, is a pedestrian pathway for our public realm. So with that little teaser, I will now jump over to the landscape drawings and kick it over to Eric.
Thank you, Adam. Good evening, everyone. Eric Rains, the landscape architect for the project. Adam gave you a good description of the layout of the components of the site design. And so maybe best to focus on some of the configuration of those elements. I'll go from east to west, starting with the pocket park. And in thinking about and designing that space, we wanted the full frontage to the greatest degree possible to look like each of the three zones, meaning the north and the south sort of planted area, and then the drive zone in the middle. Each of the three zones all looked to be part of the park. So there's a heavy line that goes straight into the site that we feel that by staggering the edges of the pavement would make that line look less like a driveway. And then we'd flank both sides of it with bollard lighting so that it delineated the actual drive area. And then we carried that variegated or that irregular edge of the paving north into the planted area above the driveway. The darker gray rectangles would be a masonry height, a seat height, sort of I hate to call it a bench, but it would be a masonry, something for people to sit. So it's not a bench in the traditional fashion, but a seating element that would be a solid piece of masonry. And then below that, on the south area, we carried that irregular edge to wrap around and connect over to South Main Street, and then again had two more of those masonry seating elements. The entire area is planted with trees, shrubs, ground covers, and perennials, intended to buffer the street from the interior of the site and give canopy overhead for people who would want to come into the park and use the space, so that it would give some shade under, in the warmer season. The connection continues west as you move toward Chestnut, and again, trying to avoid straight lines, giving the irregular edge the opportunity to come in and out of the proposed planting of perennials and ground covers. There's a connection between the parking area and the under building parking that David mentioned that has the same kind of irregular edge paving that connects over to that opening in the garage. It carries through further to the west over toward Chestnut, again with paving and planting, and then on the Chestnut side there, and this is where we got one of the comments about planting. There's perennial plantings between. We have about an 8-foot zone from the back of the sidewalk to the face of the building. So we planted that with seasonal plantings to maximize the seasonal experience of the plantings. And the tree that we've selected as a result of the comments would be a tree that would have a spring flower, obviously summer leaves, but it would lose its leaves in the winter. Maintaining, primarily the reason for that is to maintain visibility through, because there's glass on the building there, and we didn't want to put anything that would permanently or full year round obstruct the views in and out of the building. And then of course the city standard sidewalk, which is the concrete with a brick zone, and which is consistent with the rest of the newer sidewalks on Chestnut. And then below that is just an area enlargement of the Pocket Park portion of the site. And that's where all the plantings are identified and tied back to the plant list that's on a subsequent page.
Anything else, Eric, on your end?
Not for now. If there are questions, I'd be
Okay.
happy to answer them.
Okay.
Okay, so moving back to the architecture, we'll move to a larger scale ground floor plan. As I mentioned, starting on the west, we have our main entrance facing Chestnut Street, which is our principal frontage for this lot. You come into the building into a vestibule with mailroom on your left, go into the lobby, which is flanked by 2 property management offices and a community room, and then utility spaces, and then access to 2 elevators and a stair that serves all floors. Moving further into the east, we have the 20 covered parking spaces. About halfway across that, the trash room, which connects to a trash chute that goes to all floors of the building on that south side of the parking lot. And on the north side is the second egress stair for the building. Moving up to the second floor, floors 2 through 6 are the same, where we have 12 one-bedroom apartments, access to 2 elevators, 2 stairs, 2 common spaces. And then on this floor, on the second floor, on top of the parking garage, on that south-facing side, there is a resident amenity deck, which will have walking surfaces, seating areas, and an artificial turf bocce mixed-use area that was designed by Eric and his team. And then moving up to the floors above, obviously no access to that amenity deck on that south-facing courtyard. But as I said, each of these floors, 3 through 6, are repeated with the 12 one-bedroom apartments. And then moving to the top floor, on the east and west side, we satisfying the zoning regulation requirements for setbacks. We pulled the building in minimum of 10 feet. And in those areas, we replaced the 1-bedroom apartments with 2-bedroom apartments to give us a total count of 64 1-bedroom and 4 2-bedroom apartments, which meets Sound Community and the housing development's needs for unit mix and matrix. And moving to the roof plan, the equipment that we selected for the building minimizes the requirements for rooftop mounted equipment. Here we're showing the potential area for solar panels. The final layout and arrangement of those panels will be done in coordination with SNU as we finalize the electrical needs for the house meter and panels. We'll then be able to maximize the available space on the roof for solar panels that will then offset any of the utility needs for the building, excluding the needs inside the resident apartments. And now moving to the elevations, in following the zoning regulations and guidelines, we arranged the building to provide a clear base, a middle, and a top, respecting the requirements for the setbacks at that top level, given the number of stories of the building. The ground floor is predominantly brick in compliance with the zoning regulations. Moving up to floors 2 and above, we have switched to fiber cement material. One of the comments that we received in the design review was color selection. And we did note in the responses that the dark grayish brown color that is selected for the majority of the fiber cement siding is the same material and color that is on Sono Central, which is the building directly north of us, on floors 2 through 4. So we're pulling from materials and colors that are used in the neighborhood for other residential developments. And then for the brick color, we have chosen a color that doesn't mimic the red bricks either to the north or the south of us, but it pulls from some of the more tan and brown colors at the platform, which is diagonally across the street from us on Chestnut Street. Again, pulling from the colors and the palette of the surrounding buildings so that we feel like we're a continuation of the great work that's already taken place in South Norwalk and continues to take place with the development that's just getting underway a little bit further south on Chestnut Street. Some of the comments that we received had to do with accentuating the main entrance here along Chestnut. We did clarify in the revisions that there are light fixtures on either side of the front door. There was a drawing in the original submission that had a light on this third pilaster of brick a little bit further to the south. That has been removed to make sure that we're accentuating the front entrance, which has now lighting, has the additional landscaping provided by Eric's team, and then the building signage on this sign band above the door to draw attention to the entrance. And then on the left-hand side here, this is where we have the egress door inside the building that leads from the egress stair out the building so that we're meeting the building code requirement for access to a public way. We have updated this elevation in this iteration to bring the darker color of this sign band and these columns on the south side, to bring that down here on the north side of this elevation so that it brings your attention more to the brick, which then brings you to the front door. Moving to the next sheet, some of the other elevations around the building, nothing too exciting to look at there. Another comment we received was relative to the original submission, had some variety in the color that was shown in the 2D elevations versus the 3D renderings. In the updated drawings here tonight, we have adjusted those colors so that they more accurately represent the actual materials and that the 2D elevations match what is shown on the 3D rendering, which I believe is this next slide. So now we're showing, we've adjusted the lighting and the filters in the rendering so that it shows you the colors that have been selected. And as I mentioned previously, the lap siding on floors 2 through 4 of Sono Central, the building to the north of us, matches the color and exposure of siding on our building so that it's not a foreign color or material in the neighborhood. Moving to the South Main Street side, here we're showing the layering of the landscaping of the ground cover and the trees that have been specified, as Eric mentioned, to provide a small canopy for residents and the public as they use the park and the benches in an effort to provide some screening of the open air surface lot that is directly behind the Pocket Park and our building behind that. And with that, I think I will open it up to any questions, or if I believe Suzanne, you're here to be able to talk through the comments from your review. And I can stop sharing if you want to pull up the comments.
Yeah, there's two of us here from BFJ Planning. Maybe
Okay.
it would be good if we went through our comments, and thank you for, I know you sent a response in, or we got a response this afternoon. Both Suzanne and I were I was in transit and she was at a conference in New Haven, actually with some of the staff from P&Z. We skimmed through those, but I think between, I guess, Adam and Eric, you've covered some of those. But I want to do go through it for the agency, and that is the first one in our memo, which I presume everyone here has seen, which was sent September 10th, was the two things, the color palette and particularly the facade. I understand better now because I happen to know the Spinnaker building fairly well. And I feel that, it was our architects, sort of our joint feeling that, along with some of the staff, that this was, I know it's described as an espresso color. To us, it's a very dark brown, and the Spinnaker building, the basic Spinnaker building facing north, is not quite that way. I know you picked that up from what I would call the Chestnut Street side of it, but we think a lighter color choice would be a good one. The Spinnaker building is a much larger building. It's on a wider street. Part of it does, as you said, come out onto Chestnut. But we just wanted to point that out. Obviously, this is, I don't mean to push this too much because this is an aesthetic sort of design palette choice, if you will. It's almost like different paint samples on a house. But this is Chestnut's a narrow street. And I think the sense of the architects and our team was that if you could brighten up the street rather than darken down the street, if I may use just an analogy a little bit, that might be better on Chestnut. The Spinnaker building we think it's a very good building. We've seen a lot of Spinnaker's projects, but it's on a wider street and it's set back from the street. It has more room for, I'm speaking of the major building, facing the police station. But so on palette, we do think still that you could get a brighter, lighter kind of color to the facade of the building that faces Chestnut. We're not as concerned about the brick. I understand now where you got the brick from. We were looking at the brick, directly north on the Spinnaker building. And also there's a historic building that's been preserved to the north. And that's a more reddish brick color. You haven't chosen that, but I realize where you got your colors from. We're not as concerned about the brick. Our major concern was that it did seem that the facade was a sort of very dark brown, and sort of the place where we did a review previously, which has nothing to do with this building, but I still remember I think it was 24 Belden. And, they inherited a very, very dark building facade, and they were keeping it, and they made a change in it. And I think it was a good change that would fit into the context better. So we just make that comment to you on the building materials. And again, we're not as concerned. We understand now where you got that brick color from. So we're not as concerned about that. We do appreciate your trying to sort of enhance the building entrance and make it clearer. We think your response is a good one there. We just wanted to make sure that the building would be identified clearly. And you've responded on that on South Main. I think your response was you would put signage on South Main also, so that you could easily, everybody could identify the building easily. So the building entrance, one of the things and I would defer to, of course, to the building code here. We were uncertain whether the emergency access, which we highlighted on page 2 of our memo, which you just covered, Adam, and that is that we thought that rather than have that access be a long sort of interior walkway, if you will, out to the street, that it could go through the lobby. But obviously, if it can't go, if the building code doesn't allow that, then of course you have to stay with your design. But could you clarify whether people coming down the stairwell can actually, the design is such that they could walk through the lobby easily to get to the public access of the walkway. So if that's possible, we thought that would be better for the facade of the building, not to have an emergency door.
So to answer that, there is a door into the stair, so that it's not an egress only stair when you get to that level. So anybody that comes in the lobby and wants to go up to that second floor, they do have access. The lobby could be reconfigured if we were to eliminate this egress corridor at the north and shift spaces. We would have to swing that door from that stair out. We would also then have to continue the 2-hour rating of that stair through the entirety of the lobby, so that the rated enclosure of the egress stair is maintained to this vestibule, which then gets you out to the public way.
Right.
In doing that, we would either incur the additional expense of 90-minute rated glass to maintain the openness that we have shown between the offices, the lobby, and the community room, so that there's visibility and transparency and light that can move through this space. In order to maintain that 2-hour rating, we would have to provide 90-minute storefront glass, which would be quite a bit of an expense, or we would have to reduce the amount of glass to cut down on that cost. So it is possible. There is a cost impact to the project that we would have to work through. But we have satisfied the code requirement for egress from the stair to the public way with the corridor along the north side of this floor.
We raised it because we thought it might give you the positive of gaining that access through the lobby is that it gives you more space for your offices, or actually for your mailroom and for the lobby. You don't have to create that additional wall, actually. Right now, you've got an access through what becomes a fairly, and I'm sure it'll be a well-lit stairwell, but it's a stairwell with, solid walls on both sides of it with an emergency access door on the facade of the building, which our thought was not ideal. We know that this is, obviously cost, it's price sensitive. It might be good though, if you could give the agency a little bit of a sense of, is this cost prohibitive, or could it be, can it be done in such a way that it actually benefits you and creates a somewhat larger space for you in the lobby or the offices? You may feel you don't need that, but we appreciate your attempt to sort of minimize that with your material choices in the front of the building to emphasize the vestibule there, and de-emphasize that door. But it's going to be an emergency access door that just, it's not great on the front of it. So we don't, again, we don't feel that that's something aesthetically, we think it would be better to go through the lobby, but we don't want to create obviously a cost element that's, too great for you. But you might want to look at it. I think you might want to look at it, or give the agency maybe an approximate cost on it.
Okay. We did talk that through briefly in our office, and the cost prohibitive part of it would be if we wanted to maintain as much glazing in the lobby between the offices and the lobby, and between the community room and the lobby. That would be the most cost prohibitive part of it. So if we went that direction, we would definitely have to reduce the amount of glass to try to minimize that cost impact.
Yeah. Well, you might want to give, I'm just making a suggestion, some just attention to it, and maybe give the staff, Brian Bedoli and Jonathan, a sense of that, so the agency can make a decision on it. And we appreciate on our next one was signage. We've already covered some of that. We asked for signage both on, on South Main. I think you've addressed that. And then we asked a little bit more for landscaping. I think you've addressed that now to emphasize the entrance just a little bit more. One of the things on, if I could jump a little bit to our sort of screening section, landscaping and screening. It's the southern side of the building. Can you say what happens there a little bit on the screening end of that? Is there a fence on the southern side?
Yes, there's a continuous from Chestnut Street. It's graphically shown with the line work where it has the squares for the posts. So that travels along the southern border. It has this jog to the south to follow our property line, and then continues to the South Main Street side, so that it provides that screening and buffer between our property and the here between us and the parking lot for
the parking lot,
the church and the
church. Right. We just wanted to make sure of that screening. And then we understand your comment on the northern side without putting a fence, but putting landscaping. That's what you're doing there? Yeah.
Correct. Yes. So
all right.
This portion of the building to the north is a 7-story wall with no windows in it.
Yeah, no,
and
I was out there a couple of times. I kind of
right.
saw that, so
Okay.
I understand your solution.
Yep.
I would jump then to the parking area and driveway, and obviously we do defer. I mean, the call to be made on this is by, TMP. On the other hand, this is, our understanding, this is a senior residence building. And I don't want to say, I think, let me say it for myself, because I qualify as a senior resident and I consider my driving okay. But I think a minimum standard of 8 feet, I'm talking about the outside parking, or 8.5. I understand that the requirement is only for 8.5 feet. We find in a lot of parking areas where you do have more seniors, that if you can expand that 8.5 toward 9 feet, it will lead to less cars parking over the line and actually taking away a parking spot. It makes parking tight, relatively tight. I realize we would defer to TMP. Obviously, there's the standard is 8.5. We understand that, but we've been in spots. I think many of us have been in spots where the normal, as you know, ITE parking spot is 18 by 9 or 19 by 9. That's the normative nationwide. So we would have not commented on this as there's a regular building, but in this case, it's senior residence. So we just wanted to point it out. Again, we're not going to, if TMP is fine with it, that's their call. That's why we also suggested that the 16-foot driveway, that is, as you pointed out, the TNP does allow between, I guess, 12 and 20. Average car width, or rather 6.5 feet. We wanted to know about garbage trucks, and you've answered that. So there's no trucks coming into the driveway.
Correct.
We think, as we stated, we believe it, that if you were able to do, and you're saying you're not able to do an 18-foot wide driveway, that would be actually a more pleasant drive for seniors. The ability to pass one another would be safer. But if you're not able to meet the zoning requirement, we can understand that. In other words, you've tried to meet that, and you can't meet that zoning requirement for the triangle at the South Main.
For widening the driveway?
Yeah.
Widening the driveway, we're required to meet the 8% build out for this side of the site, and the 18-foot driveway would put us under that 80% for the area that's being built out for the pocket park.
So
there were two comments there. There was that, and then there was the alignment of the driveway to the alignment of the entrance to the garage.
We're less concerned on the alignment than we are
Okay.
with making a driveway that's safer for seniors. So we're not as concerned with the alignment if the alignment presents problems of meeting the standards for you. We much would prefer, going to 18 feet if possible on the driveway in and out. And we now understand that trucks, garbage trucks, for instance, trash, that's not going to happen there. I presume it's going to happen then on South Main Street? Is that where that's going to happen?
Correct. So the trash room is here, and the staff would move the trash bins out to South Main Street to be picked up at the street, which is similar to what is done at Sono Central. Their trash pickup is on South Main Street, pretty much just above the end of this drawing.
No, we have no problem with that. We just wanted to make sure of it.
Yep.
But if you can do anything, and it doesn't interfere, too much with your plan, even going to, going from 16 to even 17 or 18 feet would, I think most people understand why we're asking for that. It's just a safer back and forth. The other thing we would say is, and I understand, I think Eric might have said this, you said all three zones in the park, all three zones of it, they all want to be part of the park. You do not want the driveway, to look different than the park. Actually, though, we think for seniors, and by the way, I'm speaking as, I think I can speak this way without being pejorative in any way. I would classify myself a senior, and our sense is that it should be differentiated a little bit so that a senior in the park setting, they're enjoying the park. But you want to be sure, I think, and this is up, of course, to the agency, you want to be as clear as you can be with where that driveway is, so that they don't walk, you don't realize after a while you've had a coffee out there in the park or whatever, you're walking across the park to the other part of it, not fully cognizant of that driveway, and that could be a little bit dangerous. So we thought some type of differentiation of the driveway with a slightly different material or a slightly different color, so that one realizes you're moving out of the park and you better watch out for a car that could be, driving there. So that was our other concern. It was more of a sort of general safety concern. So those are the two things I just wanted to mention. You've answered the question on deliveries, except one thing, and that is that my sense of Chestnut Street, watching other vehicles on it, you've got a more narrow street on Chestnut than on South Main. So I presume what will happen is if you get a FedEx truck, or the classic FedEx or, UPS truck, they're going to park probably on the street in front of the building, and they will walk the package in. When they do that, I don't see an easy way to, there's no parking. Is there some type of place that they should park? In other words, it's a narrow street, so the danger there is that they're going to probably, and it might be minor, but they're going to stop. The car in back of them is probably not going to be able to get around them very easily. So I don't know if anybody has addressed that or kind of thought of that a little bit.
The question we got from TMP was similar to yours of confirming if deliveries are made in the parking lot, and if so, is there turnaround space? And in reviewing the zoning regulations with them, we agreed that because the size of the development is under 100 units, it's not required to provide a separate delivery or loading zone as part of the property. So traffic was understanding of that, given the urban nature of the site, that there was no requirement for us to provide that either within our parking lot or at the curb line.
Right. Okay. So the net impact of that, though, is there will be an impact on when those trucks come up. The logical thing they're going to do then is park right in front of the building. When they do, there's not room on Chestnut Street to get around that truck, so it will just momentarily stop traffic. I just wanted the agency to realize that. I'm not saying that that's an urban situation, and if that's okay with TMP, then that's their call. So
let me just pull up the floor plan quickly again. So the way we've designed and arranged the entry to the building, so from that main set of doors into the vestibule, there's access directly into the mail package room.
Right.
And then this interior set of doors would be the secure set of doors. So it will, while there may be an impact on the road, the time will be limited because the driver will be able to come in, drop the packages off, and get right back out to the street.
Right.
So we try to keep that in mind.
That's thoughtful. I mean, I just wanted to cover that. That's also, and everybody knew that. And then a very final little question here was, is there a railing on the roof? We just didn't, we're not saying there should not be. We're just saying it could be visible if there, I don't know if there is one.
There is not.
Okay.
And so we designed that roof deck so that this dashed line here represents the walking surface on that amenity deck. And then this wall built up to act as the guardrail for safety. And then we can plant the edge of that from the roof deck side so that it provides a planting garden
Right.
space for the residents and then doubles as the railing slash
Okay,
guardrail.
that's what we thought on the
Yep.
second floor. What about the roof itself of the building?
The roof itself, no, there's no railing or guardrail, but there's just the elevator overrun and then a roof hatch to get up for maintenance of roof drains. There'll be one small mechanical unit on the roof and then the solar panels.
So there's no one up there except maintenance.
Correct.
Right. Okay.
Yep. Resident access is only to this amenity roof deck, and then the actual roof of the building itself is off limits to the residents.
Yeah. Sorry.
Do you want to go ahead and mute? Can you mute Frank?
Yep.
Sorry. Oh. There we go. I think it's still muted. I don't think it's muted yet.
Okay.
One moment.
Susanna, I'm trying to mute myself. Here, I'll come around and look at this.
I think I can
I
just ask
got
my
it.
question
Yeah,
from
yeah,
here.
go
Yeah,
ahead. Yep.
sorry, we're in the same room, but
Yeah.
on different computers. My one question about the roof deck. In the plans, are there dividers between the units on the roof deck?
There's no unit.
Oh, on the second floor?
Oh, on the second
On the
floor,
second
great,
floor,
yeah.
sorry, not the
Yep,
roof deck, the
second floor,
patio.
Yeah.
And would those be visible from the street?
There are no dividers, but anywhere that roof deck abuts a residential apartment, we provided a landscape buffer so that the seating areas aren't right on top of the windows into those apartments.
Okay, so but there would be windows on the someone would be able to access and the entire terrace, regardless of what unit they're in.
Correct.
Okay, just wanted to check on that.
Yep.
I think that's all we have. So, yeah. So thank you. We turn it back to you all.
You're on mute, John.
Sorry. Are there any more comments, questions, observations? I guess not.
I would just say that thank you everyone for the presentation and thank you for the reviews, which is always great and detailed. I do in particular agree with, I like the architecture very much, particularly on facing Chestnut Street. I like the design. I think it's unique and complementary towards the other buildings on the street at the same time. I do agree with the concern about the building being too dark because that street has gotten dark because the buildings are really big and the street is narrow. So if you could really pay attention to that comment from the reviewer, that would be great. I really like the pocket park. I hear the comments about safety and senior driving and everything, but I really like the parking, the pocket park, and I hate to make the driveway any bigger and take away space from the park. Hopefully less people will have cars in an urban development like that. But I like the project very much overall, and I think it's a really good use for kind of some rundown space. And will hopefully provide better housing than the people have in Leroy Downs. So I think it looks like a good solution to me. It has my support.
Thank you for your observations and comments. I tend to agree with you. Mary, Lisa? No? Well, would you consider approval of the proposed design? Do I hear a motion to do that?
I'll move it.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That is unanimous. So we've approved the proposed design at 79 South Main Street. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Moving on to item B, it's Connecticut DCD Brownfield Grant Application for 79 South Main Street. We're going to consider authorizing the Executive Director of the Norwalk Redevelopment Agency to execute any and all agreements in accordance with the State of Connecticut Department of Economic and Community Development requirements for the Norwalk Housing Authority's 79 South Main Street application and project. Do I hear a motion to do?
So moved.
David moves it. I'll second it. All in favor? Any conversation? No?
No.
All in favor? Item B2, item B1 passes. So we'll move on to item C, which is a work program update. Ryan?
Okay, great. So I think Lisa and everyone, you're fine with the grant application. So we'll be good to go on that.
Thank you.
Thank you all for your time. We really appreciate it.
It was very
Good project. Thank you.
Thanks, Dave.
Nice job.
Thanks.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, I just wanted to provide a general update on some of our larger projects that have been ongoing. I'll start sort of with the work over by the South Norwalk train station. So I don't know if you all have all heard or noticed that there's a lot of activity and construction going on over there. And that's as a result, we've actually finally closed on the property that we've been negotiating through the land disposition agreement with Spinnaker. So that is now that portion of the property that we cleaned up. We completed the brownfield remediation. We transferred the site to them. We're all good to go there from our perspective. Apart from various monitoring requirements that we have is related to the grants that we've received for that from the state of Connecticut. But we're in the process of closing out the Brownfields grant that funded that project, and also finishing some of the site utility and infrastructure work that's going to go into the public infrastructure. We're going to have to wait a little bit until some of the vertical construction gets complete. As you know, we don't want to obviously be driving large equipment over our new infrastructure. So we'll complete those phases subsequent, once the vertical construction being, mostly complete. The other project that we've been, working on is around the Pinnacle site. That's also went up, it's actually actively leasing. And as I understand from Toll Brothers, I had a meeting with them last week. It's doing very well. So they had some minor issue that kind of delayed some of the occupancy, but that was resolved very quickly by them, which was good to hear. But we're in the process of finalizing the designs on that scope. Did I freeze up on you guys? Can you hear me? Because I'm seeing myself as frozen.
We could hear you.
You can hear me. Okay. All right. There you go. So we're working on the second phase of that, which will involve additional streetscape work in the area, and then also some additional utility work on Orchard. Apart from that, we're moving forward.
They're going to repave Butler Street, I hope.
It just got delayed a little bit because we had to value engineer it a little bit so we could time it up better with the city's paving schedule as opposed to, providing or doing duplicitous paving.
Yeah.
So that's why there's just a little bit delay there. It's more of we're trying to save some money on the overall project, but it's going to be done.
Good. Thanks.
Yeah, of course.
Done this year?
Yeah. I think it's the spring. Yeah.
You think
Summer,
spring?
yeah.
So
Steven would know better actually.
This year, isn't it?
Yeah, so we've been speaking with Drew. I'm going to say his last name wrong. Brendelmeyer. So we've been in contact with them. Depending on the date at which we finish the improvements, we'll kind of determine exactly when it is paved. But we've been coordinating everything with him. So if it's not late spring, it's early summer. But definitely 2026.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, no problem. So then apart from that, we're moving forward on our CDBG responsibilities as part of the city. We're in the process of waiting for various grant agreements from the federal government. And then finally, the Webster Lot project, we've reissued the RFP for that. We have a lot of
Sorry, Brian. So we're actually getting CDBG money from the government?
As it stands now, yeah. I mean, they are in the process of finalizing the agreements. We've done the con plan, it's been approved, all the administrative, but we don't have our agreement yet, and it's under some sort of review, and we're trying to figure out what that is. We just sent an email today, and we're hoping to get positive news, but it seemed they're moving forward with us as if things are moving forward. So, that's all we have right now.
Is the amount similar? Is it like $1.2 million or something like that usually?
It's like 800. Steven, it was like, what is it this year? 800.
Yeah, it's 834,000. The previous year is 840,000. And we've been hovering in that $800 to $850,000 range for the past couple of years.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And then just on the Webster lot, as I mentioned, the RFP's out. So we've been brewing and developing interest in the site. We have a number of, I guess, potential suitors that are looking to, sort of pick that back up. So we're working to develop that. That is due October 24th, and we'll keep you updated once we receive, the next proposals in that journey.
Thank you. Any other questions? Anyone want to bring up new business, old business? No? Do I see a motion to adjourn? Lisa? All in favor? Unanimous. I do want to apologize for my voice. At some point, the doctors assure me it will come back.
Right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good, John. Thank you very much, everyone.
Good
All
night.
right. Have a good night.
Thank you.